Hey, this is Dave, the Caregiver's Caregiver at caregiverdave.com, coming to you on the number one rated caregiver podcast on the internet, along with my lovely co-host, best-selling author and former mayor of Grover Beach, California, Debbie Peterson. Hi, Debbie.
Hey, Dave.
And just a reminder to like and subscribe to this show to help other caregivers who are struggling with the things that we caregivers struggle with. And we have an especially exciting show planned for you today. Teresa Angeles is a mother of 6, grandmother of 8, an experienced Montessori-certified teacher for children 2 to 12 years old. She has a master's degree in education with an emphasis on Montessori and Endicott College. From Endicott College, and has newly published her book, The Montessori Home and Beyond, Nurture the Heart of Your Child and Family. And if you're wondering what does this all have to do with caregiving, well, just hang on. We'll let you know. But Teresa, welcome to the Caregiver Dave Show. So great to have you on.
Thank you so much, Dave. I really appreciate being invited. And I just want to say kudos to you for creating a podcast like this that could really support people and help caregivers. I personally know several people who have been caregiving their beloved partners and have actually passed on before their partners because of the stress. So I think whatever we can do to help is wonderful. Your show, I'm going to go first into Montessori, what Montessori has to offer for children and families, and then give the correlation of how Montessori can help with elder care. It's more of a new development, a new realization, but there is an organization, a part of AMI, American Montessori International, that has a whole training program for caregivers now. And maybe I could share that since I'm going to be talking about it. Could I do that? Could you?
Absolutely. And I know Montessori schools have been around for a long time.
Yes.
And, they're to teach children, but we're all children inside and we all can continue learning, right?
Exactly. So this is an organization that was sponsored by American Montessori International. It's called Montessori for Dementia, Disability, and Aging. And they use this in facilities all over Australia, and it's growing throughout the world. So this is the website, mdda.montessori-ami.org. And I think if you just go to AI and Google, what organizations can train me in or help me understand Montessori for elders, I think this will come up. But they have some fabulous videos about how Montessori can empower elders right where they are developmentally. I want to share a little bit more about that with you. But
is it any elders or elders specifically with dementia, for example?
Both. I think both. And I want to back up and say, and I'm going to give this back to you now, or maybe we could leave it on for just another minute.
Yeah.
I just want to say that I started out as a mom. First, I was a nurse, and then I was a mom, and then I got interested in teaching and started teaching my own children, and then went into Montessori. And after many years, ended up caring for my grandparents and then my own parents. And it was just such a joy. And I actually started out at 5 and 6 years old, going to Little Sisters of the Poor, an elderly home that my mom used to volunteer at. And I would go with her and work with her. And it was such a delight. I've always loved to work with elders.
I have a question for you about, you trained as a certified nursing assistant to CNA and then as a nurse. And that's interesting because as my parents aged, I trained as a CNA because I wanted to be able to take care of them. What was your motivation? How did you take that journey?
Well, I actually wanted to be a midwife. That was my original plan. And so I wanted to go into nursing, and then I just wanted to get a job that kind of would lead me in that direction. So I did CNA first and then nursing and got my degree. I only worked for a few years and then started having children and just felt like it was too much. And And then I was so excited about working with them and teaching them that it just kind of Montessori unfolded from there. But I think that I love Montessori's concept that I think brings it all together and embraces the whole family, the unit family, but also the family of man. She said that the preparation of the teacher was the most important thing, that she resolved or he resolved their psychology, leave their issues at the door, and come in to interact with their person, whether they're little children or elders, in more fragile environments, with presence. And I think for me, that's what Montessori has really taught me, to be able to become more present, almost a spiritual mission, to become kind of more invisible, more selfless, so that I could really hear the other person, hear the child. And so much magic happens when you can get to that place and hear what the child's thinking, what they're wanting. And when they're empowered in an environment where they feel safe, just magic happens. They come up with ideas that you would never have imagined. And so I have found that using Montessori with everyone, those kind of concepts really helps. So I want to back up a little bit, and I'm glad I was able to share that website, because I think that will give our listeners wonderful information. So I just want to give you a little background about Montessori generally, and then apply it to our elders. So in the Montessori environment, some people talk about how children in a Montessori school can do whatever they want, and they rule the roost, and there's no boundaries. And I just have to say that's not at all true. Not in an authentic Montessori environment. There is, Montessori, and I'm glad, Dave, that you brought that up first. Many people know about Montessori schools, but few know that she developed Montessori principles in the slums of Rome with children who were disadvantaged, and that her approaches are now being confirmed by neuroscience. She found that working with children and allowing them to choose physical activities helped develop their brains and made them more capable, more empowered all the way through. So in the Montessori environment, Dr. Montessori she was one of the first female doctors in Italy. And some people say she was the first, but that's debatable. But she was one of the first. And she became a medical doctor and left her lucrative medical career to work with children. She felt so passionate and called to work with children that she left that career, and in her intense love of children, wrote down all of her observations and developed her method from there. And she published many, many books. I don't even know how many, probably 30, 40, 50 books. She really brought forth a lot of wonderful teaching. So in the Montessori environment, as a doctor, she had a very strategic, scientific approach, and she observed children, and she said observation was vital. And I think even for elders, as a parent, I've been encouraging, and as a coach, I've been encouraging parents to get a notebook and sit down in a corner and just observe your child, for 10 minutes a week, if you can. Just try to be invisible and just observe what they do. What are their interests? Where do they get frustrated? And you can also observe yourself. Where do I get frustrated with this situation? How do I get irritated and feel helpless or hopeless? And you don't have to write, paragraphs. You could just write 3-word notes, and then later at some time take out that journal and see what you were looking at, what you were thinking, and do some research, or talk to a friend or a therapist or whatever it is to kind of help yourself. Wow, how could I engage with my mom in a different way? How could I do this or that? So anyway, I think the most important thing right now is to get to the setup of the environment and how it's different from traditional schooling as well as traditional elder care. In a Montessori environment, we have shelves with lots of different activities that call out to the children. And we have them organized by subject. And there are basically 5 areas in the Montessori elementary classroom. And I kind of pull down all 5 into the preschool classroom. There is language development, if you're learning to read or you're doing reading books or stories, and the same for elders, maybe there's stories there, or crossword puzzles. My mom used to love to do crossword puzzles and things like that for the language area. Then you could have a math area, maybe with Sudoku. We have math lessons in the Montessori area. And then there's practical life, like for the children, they're learning how to wash a table thoroughly, taking the parts of the table and understanding the sequence, how you make sure you cover the whole table and then dry it so it's not wet when someone comes to sit down, how to water plants, how to comb their hair, how to pack a suitcase, all these little things that they can learn that kind of puts order into their minds and worlds. And
or relearn in the sense of dementia or Alzheimer's.
Exactly. And for a lot of the elders, like folding towels, folding clothes, probably, especially women, they've probably done that a million times in their lives,
I know, I had to figure that out myself. Nobody taught me.
Exactly.
I still don't know if I'm doing it right.
You could Google it. Anyway, and I think and so what we do in the Montessori classroom is we do 2 things. We find what the children's interests are, and you could do the same thing with elders. What are their interests? Do they like gardening? Do they like setting tables and helping with celebrations? Do they like cleaning or making beds? And offering them the opportunity to engage in that in a living area and with others can be very empowering. Purpose uplifts our mood, and being able to do things physically engages our brain, help us to stay present. And a lot of times it's the muscle memory that is so right there, no matter where we are in our thinking. You can still remember how to fold a towel. My mom used to love to wind balls of yarn from a huge skein. And I think that's a wonderful thing for women who did lots of crocheting or knitting. It kind of brings them back. And I think whatever we can do to help them come back is really to the present is really helpful. And finding, like I said, finding the things that they really love to do. We also organize the classroom with lots of visual cues. Part of the helping children to take responsibility for their environment and the care of themselves is powerful. It gives them the sense, well, this is my classroom. It's not something else. Or in the home, this is my home. I want to keep my home beautiful and clean. So when I take a lesson out of the language shelf, it comes from this area. We have a picture on the wall of that language shelf and where all the lessons go, so that then they can put it back in the right place. Yeah. And knowing they're contributing to others is huge. And the idea of enlisting the elders to help in a care facility, I think is wonderful. And I also, just want to encourage us to remember it's not about them helping to get our work done. It's about us creating opportunities for them to contribute and feel purposeful and that life is meaningful. And
it's a great paradigm shift. A lot of people don't realize that I'm sure they do realize it, but have never verbalized it, that there's a role reversal. The parents have become the children, and the children now have become the parents. And you get along so much better when you understand that your parents, elderly parents, are like children again, and their minds absorb what children's minds absorb, and they stop acting like adults, and we need to stop acting like children and start acting like adults, because so many times when we're around our parents, we just feel like little kids, don't we? They make us feel that way.
It's almost like muscle memory for them. So true. And I think again, just finding what their interests are and creating, like in a home, in a care home, or even if you're just with one person, figuring out what their interests are and creating a little shelf in one corner of the room where you can have things that they love to do, and you can refresh them and change them weekly or monthly or whatever. I have 6 children, and one of my daughters has 2-year-old triplet boys, identical boys. And so I've had a lot of fun creating this learning environment for them. And I just find that I create things that they really love, the more it flourishes. So I think
what a great idea, just taking their room that they're in and treating it like a classroom. And, I don't know what's on their walls now, maybe just pictures and stuff, but finding out what their interests are. Maybe you don't know. Maybe you think you know. But
exactly.
maybe they developed, you haven't been around for 20 or 30 years, so things have changed. And just change their room around like you would change a classroom for an elementary school.
Yeah, exactly. For the seasons, you could have things about the seasons and take them outside. I mean, I've been studying a lot about light and how light affects our brains. And even COVID responded to light when people were taken outside, even people who were about to be put on respirators. And I think light triggers our brains as well. And so getting elders outside, even for 15 minutes a day, they say makes a huge difference. And celebrating the seasons, understanding what the equinox is. Montessori has a most amazing lesson explaining to children what the equinoxes are and what the solstices are, and using a globe and a sun in the middle and making the earth go around the sun. It's a lamp, but it's just wonderful. And I think helping our elders to connect with what's happening. Well, why are the leaves falling? Remember, it's fall. Oh yeah, now it's winter and it's cold and it's dark, and the sun doesn't come up till 8 and it goes down at, I don't know where you are, you're in LA, but and it goes down at 4, but yes, thank you for saying that. But engaging with them and asking, what would you like to know about? What would you like to learn about? Should we get some books in here? You could even get children's picture books, story books with lots of pictures and a little bit of information. Oh, remember how the seed sprouts and come up? You could plant some seeds. They could water them every day. You could plant them outside. They could go out and water them.
In 11 years we've been doing this show, we've never had a guest like you talking about this.
Oh my gosh.
What do you think of this, Debbie?
Well, I'm really curious. You've been giving a lot of different examples, but I think that you actually have almost a system that goes through it and explains how to do it. So maybe if you can provide us with that, with the system and the way it unfolds, that might help us to connect what it is you're suggesting. The one starting with neuroplasticity and aging, and then are you able to do that? Kind of go through that.
Too, that we can share this and they can actually get stuff printed out on the computer, right?
Right. And I did email you some things, and I know you're so busy, probably a lot, but there's a couple checklists I sent to you of how to engage elders in their rooms, kind of like that. But yes, it's also a need to be written out. There's a lot. I could send you my documents about neuroplasticity, that muscle memory works. I think I've touched on those, that the brain will grow with new concepts and even bringing back old concepts that can build on them. And I think that being present with the individual will guide you. It's almost like Montessori is a framework for returning dignity to every part of life.
Yes.
That's the family. My work is about the family, and my elders were always a part of our family. And I think they still need to be,
Yeah.
Even in I really encourage you to go to that website. And Debbie, I think that you might find your answer there. That website is amazing. It has so many things. And as I said, it has trainings and curriculum and everything to do what I'm talking about.
And our viewers can go there. What is that website again?
Montessori-AMI.org. I'll say it again. MDDA.Montessori-AMI.org.
Great.
Yeah. So I think they can give you so much.
What I was thinking of was you gave us a list and you talked about neuroplasticity and aging and sort of how I think you were going on how how neuroscience works with all of this, and then procedural memory activation. And so you had sort of that list was the one I was thinking might be helpful for the listeners.
And so I can just read what I have here, and then I can send it to you for the show notes. How about that?
Yes.
So brain-based benefits of Montessori for elders. Memory that stays, procedural memory is basically muscle memory. Start with what they know. If you have a carpenter, maybe give him some things to sand or saw, or something safe. And then maybe build his opportunities, his development. And then new growth creates neuroplasticity. So at any age, hands-on tasks like matching, singing is another one. Singing engages so many of the brain centers. And it's really, really amazing. So having a little choir in your home, even if it's just you and your wife, if you sing every day and develop a list of songs and they remember more and more and more, I think that could help the brain. And if it's a group, it also enhances connections with other people, a sense of purpose, sense of meaning and belonging. Visual cues are really, really important. Having things labeled. This is where the forks are and the spoons and the knives and the napkins. And on a shelf, if you had, maybe nature elements and language things, math things like Sudoku and other things, or whatever's their interest. And then practical life is the other one that I talked about that would be practical for them. And again, it's for the person that you're interacting with, And the last one is called cosmic cultural. And it basically is about all different kinds of sciences and music and art, everything that isn't math and language and practical life and sensorial. So anyway, creating visual cues helps people a lot. Oh, this is where I should put my clothes and this is where I should put my shoes. And if they can still read, but they get mixed up, they can look for those signs and they can say, oh, this is where I should put my shoes. And again, it's like the gentleness of encouraging, not, don't put your shoes there, but instead, as we do in Montessori, let's put our shoes over here. So always maintaining that sense of honor and respect and dignity for where the person is. I think that's so huge. I've seen a lot of elders being treated as if they were disobedient children or something. Even disobedient children, we don't treat that way. We encourage them to find things that they love.
How do you handle elders who might take all this the wrong way? Hey, don't talk to me like a child or whatever. How do you handle them?
And you know what, Dave? I haven't actually used a lot of this in the real world. I worked with a lot of elders in my life who I've loved, and I've worked with a lot of children. But I think what I would do is really pay attention to my own presence. How am I talking to this person? How am I coming across? Am I coming across like I'm in charge, or am I inquiring? What would you like to do today? Or would you like to? Let's see.
The relationship has a lot to do with it.
The
what your
relation,
relationship is like, how you've been talking to them the last 20 years. Maybe just tone it down a little and so that they can say something. You know, I like this part of you. I've never seen you like this before.
that's great. I love that. Relationship is everything, really, right? If you have a relationship, and I think we can probably figure it out if we think about, how we've been talking and all. What if there's a problem? I think we can perceive it and correct it in ourselves. And lastly, connection calms the brain. Knowing that they're not alone, knowing that they're not abandoned by family or whatever, I think is huge. And I think we can make up for a lot of that just by a really loving presence. And what I loved about the videos from that website I shared was that the caregiver who was speaking was talking about how getting this training, I guess she'd been a caregiver before and she was an RN. But when she took the training and started using it, she said her whole life changed. She just feels like she has a mission, like almost like a spiritual mission to uplift people. And if you think about it, people are in their last years of life and we're all going there, we're all going there, like you said. And how do we want to be treated? And don't we want to know that we've done our best, that we've been the best we could with people to make their lives more meaningful and full. I was wishing this morning as I was reviewing the videos, I wished I had asked you if we could play one, but maybe another show, or maybe there's another way to play a segment of one of those videos there.
So like these YouTube videos?
Yeah. Well, they're on their site, but they're like that.
Yeah. We can put the links in the notes, and they can go there themselves and listen to them.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds great. Did I answer your question?
We've already run out of time. Time goes so fast. How can our listeners reach you again one more time with your website?
My website is Montessori-families.com. And my Instagram that has a lot of information about working with children, and I need to change that, is nurturing your child's heart. Nurturing your child's heart. And there's no apostrophe there. And I'm just so grateful that I could come and share all this. I hope it changes many people's lives.
It's great, yes.
It is huge.
Debbie, how can people reach you, find out all the wonderful things you do?
MayorDebbie.com, or go to Amazon and Google Debbie Peterson Integrity 101, and you'll find a lot of my books on how to get involved in local government.
Yes, and all our live shows become recorded, pod and video casts on your favorite platforms. And my number one best-selling, I can't even talk today. My number one best-selling book, it's Your Life Too, How to Survive and Thrive as a Caregiver, is available wherever books are sold. Also on caregiverdave.com. And you can go to our Facebook page, Caregiver Dave, 34,000 community members, where we have lots of tools, resources, videos, this radio show, and much, much more. So again, a big thank you to all my listeners out there all over the world for tuning in every Wednesday and making us the number one caregiver podcast on the internet. Thank you guys for showing up today. And so until next week, same time, same channel, may God richly bless you all. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good job, Teresa.
Thank you. I'm really happy I could share that.
It was wonderful. Thank you very much.
Notes.
I'm going to have to sign off because I've had a couple of calls come in that I've got to return now. So
maybe I don't think I gave Teresa. I don't think I gave you a chance to.
Oh no, I got a copy of all of your stuff from Dave. He forwarded it to me, so I've got it. Thank you. And I took notes. I don't know if you noticed.
I did.
I know that.
Thank you.
I'll get you the link in 48 hours or so. Thank you.
Okay.
For the video and the audio. Bye-bye.
Bye.